Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for joining us. Well, it's critically important to us all. I'm talking about education, and that's the major subject for this week's Pennsylvania Newsmakers.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
All right, welcome back. Well, we're going to talk about education. And as I said in the opening, I mean, how important is it to all of us? And we're not just going to talk to an important educator who leads a major education association in this state, but we're also going to talk about somebody who teaches, who's an actual teacher who deals with students on a daily basis. Joining me to do that is Aaron Chapin. He's the president of the Pennsylvania State Education Association. And Amanda Funk, she is a teacher at McCaskey High School, which is in the school district of Lancaster. All right, Aaron, I'm going to start with you. Overall, what do you see as sort of the major themes, subjects, if you will, in education today?
Well, thanks for having me back again, and it's great to be here to talk about our public schools in Pennsylvania. We've got the best schools in the nation by far. We've got the best staff. We have amazing support professionals. The 90% of Pennsylvania kids go to our public schools in Pennsylvania, and they're getting top-notch education. It's been a really great, successful school year, and we couldn't be prouder of everything that's being accomplished. And we just keep moving forward, especially after the tough times that were experienced during COVID.
Yeah. All right, Amanda, let's talk about you're in a high school in a smaller city, a third-class city in this state, obviously a very, very important job. So generally speaking, what do you see going on in education?
You know, I'm fortunate to be in a school district that really supports our students, and we offer so many opportunities for students to find their pathways for their next steps after high school. Our district boasts so many opportunities that other local districts do not have. The way that we attack the whole child and make sure that every aspect of that child's life is ready to go to get the best education possible.
And you have a very, very complex student environment and student enrollment given the nature of city life with folks from so many different backgrounds, correct?
Absolutely.
And that leads to, that's an important ingredient, but it also leads to challenges.
Absolutely. However, it's one of our strengths. I think the diversity of our students really brings to life what it means to be a McCaskey tornado. Right. All paths lead to McCaskey.
I understand. All right, let's go to a very important topic that I keep reading about. You're the expert. It's called teacher shortage. Yeah. What's the situation there?
Well, unfortunately, you know, it's an issue that we saw coming quite a while ago, and obviously COVID exacerbated it. But first-time teaching certificates are down 66%. This past school year, we had 2,000 vacancies across the state. These were positions that we just could not get filled.
I want you to repeat the number.
2,000 vacancies?
2,000.
Absolutely. It's unprecedented, and we need to get these positions filled. We need our young people to get interested in education because it is the greatest job you can possibly have.
Oh, my God. How about at your school? Shortages?
Absolutely. We do our best to make sure that we get substitutes, but often teachers are covering other teachers' classrooms, which can put a strain because you lose lunch or you lose your prep time for that day.
Well, let's run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about a program, Educators Rising, and we'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
All right, we continue our discussion about a very, very important topic, a subject, I should say, and that's education. All right, Aaron Chapin, let's talk about a program called Educators Rising. Do I got that?
You got it.
Does that mean they stand up? What's that mean?
Educators Rising. It's a great national program that we at PSEA are very excited about. It's a program that gives our students in high school the experiences of what it's like to be an educator. We've got 15 schools right now with just under 200 students involved in our very first year. They're involved in this. And
how many?
We have just under 200 students involved.
Wow.
And it's first year in its inception in Pennsylvania. We're the sponsors for the state of Pennsylvania. But it's going to, over the next few years, we really anticipate great growth across the Commonwealth. The National Education Association has provided us with $750,000 to invest it into our public schools and make this program accessible. And what we really hope is going to happen is a lot of kids get excited about being an educator and go to college then. But we also hope that we're going to diversify our profession, which is so desperately needed in the state of Pennsylvania.
Good point. All right, you're actually in a school district. Is the program operating there? And if so, what's it about?
So last year was our very first year of piloting the program. I was able to pilot a couple pieces of the curriculum within the existing early childhood program that we have. At McCaskey, we have an in-house career and technology education program, and it falls under that umbrella, which is great because the hands-on experience and the pathway that we get to carve out for our students to select this
So
path.
the bottom line is it's being implemented fully at McCaskey.
This year it will be implemented fully.
All right, well, let's go to another topic then. Student teacher stipend program. Do I have that right?
You got it. It's actually correct. And, you know,
I student taught way back when I was at Millersville, then State College.
Well, and you know what? A lot of these issues that existed back when we went to college, when Amanda and I went to college, and even back, you know, when you went to college, like, it's expensive to go and do your student teaching. You have to put your life on hold for 12 weeks while you go and do this professional job, and it's hard to pay the bills. And thankfully, legislators, the governor, Republicans and Democrats, they recognize this strain, and they have this past year invested $10 million in providing $10,000 stipends to those kids student teaching. And this year, Governor Shapiro has proposed that we in the state invest $15 million, but we need a lot more money because we're projecting it's going to take about $50 million to really fund everybody who's going to be student teaching this year, and hopefully a lot of the students that are going through the program that Amanda has going on.
What's pretty interesting is you don't see many over the course of history, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a lot of public awareness of student teaching. I'm not being critical of the public on this. I'm just saying it's just not something that has made big, you know, it's not been a big story. What's going on in your school?
The student teaching, after our students graduate and go on to college, the stipend is going to be important for them. A lot of our students need to work, not just for play money, but to support their families. So during student teaching, that's a full-time job every single day. And then these kids are expected to have another job in order to make money. So that stipend would really alleviate some of the pressure on our students.
Yeah. And that's not easy. I mean, you're student teaching, and then if you have another job, I mean, that can create all kinds of logistical, as I'll put it this way, as well as mental problems in terms of processing, correct?
Well, when you're student teaching, it is a full-time job. You are up early in the morning, you're working late into the evening, just like our educators do and our support staff do across the Commonwealth. So they should absolutely be focusing during that 12-week experience, and they should be getting compensated just like other professions where they have these internships.
Yeah. And so now you have worked with student teachers, right? And overall, are they excited in general about entering the profession?
I believe so. It's nice to see. We worked with a student teacher that was above us today. He would come into our classroom and help and talk to the future educators. And he seemed like a go-getter and was excited. Like he couldn't take in any more information. He just was always seeking it. It was good to see. He had a positive outlook and wanted to specifically work
And you
in an
deal
urban
with
setting.
many of them?
We deal with mostly the future educators, but whenever there's a student teacher in our building, we
Right.
try to seek them out and see how they're doing and get some feedback for our course.
Well, this was a critically important update, and thanks for coming on the program. All right, now we're going to turn to higher education, particularly public higher education, and we'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
All right, we're going to continue our discussion of education. This is our education program, and joining me to do that is Dr. Ken Mash. He's the president of APSCUF, the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties. As always, welcome, Dr. Mash.
Well, thanks, Terry. It's always great to be here, and to have an opportunity to
All right,
discuss.
In public higher education, the campuses are spread throughout the state. They're important, as I always used to talk about, like the state relate to the economy of the regions, as well as what they perform, as well as how they perform in education, in terms of education. So what can you just generalize a bit about what's going on at the public universities?
So our 10 universities, 14 campuses
Right.
are largely in rural areas of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So they are, as you suggested, the lifeblood of the communities that they are in. So it's not just important to the students that we educate, but it's important to the communities themselves because lots of people work at those universities.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if enrollment goes down or there's cuts at the universities, that means there's fewer jobs. The community suffers as much as the
And
students.
the people at the university spend money in the communities.
Absolutely, and the tax base is largely surrounds what happens there. But I just want to say too that we've come to the end of another academic year. It's another great year of our faculty, working and excited, and really seeing once again that our universities are kind of the engines for the working class to get into the middle class.
Yeah, that's good. Well, let's go to a couple of specific topics. I mean, obviously, because they are state-owned, the budget situation is critical because if the budget isn't adequate, then tuitions rise, correct?
Yeah, and remarkably, I think, given what's gone on, the state system has kept its tuition flat for 6 years.
Wow.
We've only been able to do that with the cooperation of the governors and with the legislature, who have, invested in us to make sure that we can keep tuition flat, keep it, as affordable as we possibly can at this moment. We have the governor has come out and talked about.
We're talking about Governor Josh Shapiro, yeah.
Governor Shapiro has come out and he is, for a year plus, has been talking about changes that should be made in higher education. Mm-hmm. And I really think he deserves all the credit in the world because, it's been a long time since we've had a governor focus on the importance of higher education in the Commonwealth. And I think everybody understands that Pennsylvania is in a position where we're going to need a lot more workers who are credentialed. And without a really good higher education system, the Commonwealth's going to be in some trouble.
Yeah. So you're more optimistic than pessimistic about the future of public higher ed?
I am optimistic because, you know, we see this situation where the governor has come out with some ideas about increasing funding for all the sectors in higher education. The Senate has responded with their own proposals, but nevertheless, you know, the governor started the conversation. Now, as we get down to budget crunch time, we'll see what the specifics of that are going to be.
All right, well, let's run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about an overhaul plans for public higher education and how that is going. First of all, what is it, and how folks are reacting to it after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania American Water. We keep life flowing across the Keystone State.
Well, as I indicated at the start of the show, this is all about education, and we're chatting about higher education. And my guest continues to be Dr. Ken Mash. He's the president of the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, and we're talking about a lot of conditions and aspects to public higher education in the state. All right, there's a plan to overhaul public higher education, correct?
Correct.
Who's the author of it, and what is it?
Yeah, so it was the governor who took the initiative to make some changes. Right now, he's got a scholarship program, which would mean there would be scholarships for students who go into high demand areas, and there would also be a scholarship where you would have to pay, if you're at a certain income level, the most you would have to pay is $1,000 a year to go to college at a public university, that is. Another aspect of this is they want an overall higher ed council, which would be coordinating higher education in the Commonwealth.
All sectors?
Yeah, well, all sectors would be involved with that. And the last part of it is performance funding measures, which are very popular among the states. We have some concerns when it comes to performance funding measures, but it is something that is fairly common in the state. And like I said, the governor's office has been great about reaching out to people, trying to, get many different perspectives on it. And it's the Senate.
Is this because we have, obviously private colleges and universities, we have public colleges and universities, we have a massive program that we used to refer to as the junior colleges. We do have a large, complex higher education. I hesitate to call it a system, but schools in the state, correct?
We have a lot of colleges and universities in the Commonwealth, and we have, they grew up organically, right? So they grew up independently. I think if anyone was planning about how it would operate, it would not be the way that it was, but it's because Pennsylvania has always been on the forefront.
If you had to mention two things about the overhaul plan, what would you mention?
About the governor's plan?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's about scholarships. It's about coordination, trying to, better pathways for students. So, we've got our community colleges. They all act independently. There is no system of community
So he wants to coordinate all of these aspects of higher ed.
He wants to get that coordinated. He wants to, have the interplay between our universities, which are the state-owned universities, working closely. He also wants to involve the state-relateds, which is Penn State, Pitt, Temple, and Lincoln, right? And make sure that they get the funding that they should be getting too, which has been problematic. And to have it all be coordinated, even with the privates. And the thing is that the Senate has responded. They have different bills. But again, like scholarship program they have, some coordination, some performance funding, they're focusing on the state-related universities.
So this could be a huge change if this coordination and control aspects weighs in, correct?
Yeah, and that's why I said the governor deserves all the credit in the world, because we have not really had that kind of coordination. There's some authority in the Department of Education. This is an attempt to say, hey, let's centralize.
Yeah, I got it.
At least not as far as, creating a body that's going to be able to tell universities what to do, but to increase the cooperation among the universities.
Let's talk a little bit about people who support it and people who oppose it. Do more Democrats support it than Republicans? How are Republicans reacting to the plan?
Yeah, so I think that, the Senate is controlled by Republicans, and we've had like Senator Martin, he's
Scott Martin.
Yeah, Scott Martin's been, he has been responsive, but he's not in a hostile way. They have a different view of how things should operate, but they've been responsive and come up with their own plan for scholarships. And, again, it may not be exactly what we would like to see, but we appreciate very much the attention that they are given. And we may not like the process for the scholarships, but, money to students is never a bad thing, especially when higher ed is so expensive.
Well, let's talk about, as you know from covering the legislature, it's about priorities. How big a priority is this right now for the leaders of the legislature, would you say?
Well, I think it's important because the governor has highlighted it and made it important. It's important because you have a leadership in the Senate who have taken this on. It's important because we have, in the House, the leadership in the House sees it as an issue. So I think we are at a moment in time where we could see progress, right? We may not see massive change, but progress is important.
Yeah, but I mean, when you look at the program, it does require a lot of coordination and shift in responsibility, which in Pennsylvania historically has not been easy to accomplish.
And I think that's some of the difficulty that's involved is you've got all these universities that act independently and having to give up any kind of authority or in a group. It creates circumstances. And on top of that, higher education is complicated, and it could sound like a good idea.
And it's a huge part of the economy of the state.
Absolutely, but you could have great ideas, but there are always complexities that are involved because you've got these different institutions doing different things. So, progress is good. We appreciate the scholarship programs, but we continue to be in favor of what the Pennsylvania promise, which would make higher education at our universities and community colleges.
Look, I want to thank you. This is a very, very important update. All right, we will see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.